Well, a warm welcome to the Uxbridge FM History Show. And as usual, Ken Pierce is here, Chairman of the Uxbridge Local History Society. We've got a talk today on the early days of Uxbridge Library. When you're ready, Ken.
Thank you. Well, the main topic of concern in Uxbridge in the last few months has been the future of the library. The Borough Council's lease on the building ends next year, and the library will have to move. As I speak, it seems that a move to part of the Civic Centre is the solution, although the future of local studies and the borough archives is not known. But anyway, it seems an appropriate moment to relate the story of the early years of the library and how it began. There were libraries here, of course, in Victorian times. Uxbridge Book Society was formed in 1811, and a reading society began in 1815. Some churches had their own collections. And of course, we mustn't forget that Boots the chemists had a library in all their branches, a subscription library, which only ceased in 1966. A verse of John Betjeman comes to mind. Think of what our nation stands for. Books from Boots and country lanes. Free speech, free passes, class distinction, democracy and proper drains. During most of last century, our district was part of the area of the Middlesex County Council. And soon after the 1914-18 war, the county librarian had, I quote, been arranging for the foundation of free public libraries in the towns and villages of the county. Incidentally, he travelled everywhere by bicycle, all over Middlesex. But in May 1922, a public meeting was held here, which resulted in the election of a committee to oversee the establishment of a library. But what was immediately needed was somewhere to house it. Councillor Edward Bayliss offered a room at the back of his High Street tobacconist shop, and this was readily accepted. So in December 1922, Uxbridge Public Library opened in those small, humble surroundings. Staffed by volunteers, it opened 2 days a week. But not long after this, Uxbridge Council offered a house as a more permanent home. It was called St Dunstan's, and it stood opposite Fountains Mill, just west of Frays River. So the library moved there in the summer of 1923. These slightly larger premises meant that there could now be a reading room as well as a library. And the rules for that room were no smoking, no talking, no spitting, no betting. Cold weather, you see, sometimes brought a number of people into the heated reading room, and they were not all genteel types. Anyway, the committee made an appeal for donations of books, and people started handing them in, and also items of local historical interest for display. And one of the first gifts that came in was a copy of the History of Uxbridge, which had been published in 1818 by two men, Thomas Riches and George Redford. Well, Thomas Riches' own copy of that history book was handed in for a start. And this really is, I suppose, the beginnings of a museum for the town. Anyway, so the Uxbridge branch of Middlesex County Libraries was up and running. The premises were rather small and not in an ideal position, quite some way from the town centre, but it was a start. And in the first year, 29,000 books were borrowed, and all the helpers were volunteers. Next month, I hope to continue the story of Uxbridge Library.
Well, thanks, Ken. That's interesting. You forget, of course, that people would have maybe smoked in a library. That's a bit strange, isn't it? And no spitting. That's a good rule as well, I think, in a library.
Yeah. Well, I may mention this next time, but of course, Hillingdon Hospital was still in those days a workhouse. Hadn't really developed. It was a workhouse with a sort of medical ward, you know.
Ah.
And so the tramps there, if that's the right word, were let loose in the town, and in the cold weather, a heated library room was ideal.
Yes. Oh, that's great. Well, more talks coming up. Thanks, Ken, for now.